Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. We gather together in this great city, in this great nation, to seize the future, to congratulate the government of UAE and His Highness Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan for convening and establishing this forum. There can be no more suitable way to honor the legacy of the late founding father and the President of United Arab Emirates, His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, than this extraordinary World Future Energy Summit. We seek to inspire the next generation of global energy innovators. The UAE has demonstrated to the world and to the Muslim Ummah in particular that trade and commerce, innovation and invention, ideas and enterprises can make a desert bloom. The UAE is the model of the future, the city of Masdar, its crowning jewel. This is the moment of the beginning of a new era. The future is in our hands. Excellencies, the end of the 20th century was all about unrecognizable compared to the beginning of the previous century. Progress was no longer arithmetic, but geometrical. Advances in science were revolutionary and not evolutionary. The human mind was unleashed as a man reached beyond radios to televisions, then computers, and now the internet. We progressed from the earth to the moon, to the furthest reaches of the universe. It seems as if we were intellectually liberated from the chains and constraints of the past. From health to science to communication, the quantum leaps of technology globalized the world and equalized the potential of its inhabitants. During the remarkable 20th century, the production and the utilization of energy became a significant measure of each country's standing within the community of the nations. The production of energy and its easy availability became the driving force of economics, and the ever-increasing demand was sustained by greater use of the element. We produced and utilized non-renewable energies as if there was no tomorrow. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a tomorrow, and it is now. At the beginning of the new millennium, the enormous benefit of our standards of living from the explosion of energy appeared, outweighed by the slow decay and poisoning of our land, air and water, that now threatens to become irreversible. Mother Earth has paid a terrible price for our unquenchable energy addiction. We have taken from her but not given back. We have assaulted the balance of nature. 35 years ago, our energy abuse was regretfully called the moral equivalent of war by an American president who was laughed and ridiculed. But now the last laugh is on us. Our arrogance has finally caught up with us, and we have at long last painfully late come to understand the solutions of our future cannot be more of the abuse of the past. Even as we attempt to modify our environmental indifference, climate change and global warming take a deadly toll on our continents, our wildlife, our food sources, on life of every man, woman and child on the planet. Rising, surging sea levels threaten billions living in the coastal communities. Wildly fluctuating temperatures are burning or freezing our environmental, destroying our protection from the sun and trapping the carbon into suffocating the blanket wrapped around the planet. We face drought, we face massive food shortage and potentially starvation. And in Pakistan this year, we have faced an historical flood. The monsoons were such unheard of proportion that 20 million of my citizens were homeless and a landmass the size of Italy covered underwater. Even the most cynical can no longer deny that unavoidable consequences of an environmental abuse. The question before us today, the great issue for our generation, is whether we have the courage, the determination, and the wisdom to do whatever is necessary to reverse the deadly process that is choking our children's future. Looking out among you, I believe the answer is yes. Then you agree with the old proverb that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. We can say today with a certain degree of relief that in our journey from Kyoto to Copenhagen, from denial to acceptance, from destruction to regeneration, manifests man's universal survival instincts. It has taken us too long, but it is not too late. The excesses of the last century have triggered the innovation of the new century. The fountains of renewable energy that define the future: solar, wind, and water. Advanced electric batteries will power the cars of the next decade, dramatically decreasing dependency on fossil fuels. Automobiles may also run on simple plain water. H2O will fuel our cars and become the most precious and natural resource of the future. Innovation and conservation will reshape the energy map, and all of us, including the oil-rich region where we meet, must accommodate the new reality. Innovation will not always succeed, but that should not discourage us from constantly searching for alternatives. In the past, attempts have been made to produce cleaner fuel, biofuels, but the cost to produce the energy was sometimes more than the energy it would in turn produce. The intent was positive, even if the direction turned out to be wrong. It now seems that the choice of corn as the source of material was not the wisest, since the land and water taken away from food security has led to hunger and instability in the poor countries. But the failure of corn is not necessarily the failure of ethanol. There are other seeds that can be used for clean biofuels that need no fresh water. There are other non-food crops that grow in abundance in poor soil without fertilization. They are excellent source of potential fuels. Our job is not to dwell about things that didn't work in the past, but rather to fight things that do work for the future. We do not have the time to mourn. It is time to innovate. In workshops, laboratories, research stations all over the world, the human mind is reaching a stage of development where solutions in the prohibitive costs of renewable energy are being found every day. It is a question more about will than of time. If the funds used in war would be used in energy development, we would have long ago solved the Earth's environmental crisis. As it has been said, if sunbeams were weapons of war, we would have had solar energy centuries ago. With higher prices and growing scarcity of fossil fuel, solar power is finally emerging as a viable and efficient source of energy. As you know, the largest solar project in the world is being undertaken here in Abu Dhabi. Innovation and improvement in the panels could well make solar energy a major contributor to local transmission systems and the main driver of hybrid cars, small machines and instruments in the very near future. In the Middle East, the solar panels have for decades been used to heat water. Now is the time to expand this capability to scores of desperate energy needs. With direct heat from the sun combined with with seawater is creating blue-green algae and in a continuous process to produce pollution-free biodiesel, medicine, nutrition, fixing organic fertilizers at almost no cost to the farmer. Such process saves the land from chemical pollution and human body from its consumption. Innovation is also making wind power more efficient and effective, making it a critical part of the grid system in many countries and critical to future expansions of renewable energy all over the world. Across all planets, in my province of Sindh and Balochistan, wind may hold the key to energy independence and environment renewability. Solar energy, wave and wind power, biodiesel, fertilizer from weeds, algae and oil seeds grown in seawater are like key to freeing the world from fossil fuel dependency and fatal global climate change. This new technology may require capital investment, but the price of action pales compared to incalculable cost of inaction. If we can't act boldly for ourselves, at last can we act boldly for our children and grandchildren and the generations yet unborn. Let my country be a metaphor for the challenges ahead. Pakistan has 180 million people in growing, and our demography are driving the forces of our needs. My economy needs to grow at an annual rate of 8% just to guarantee our people are able to sustain the current standard of living. Our energy demands have to be met urgently. We are to achieve the formidable goal of Pakistan's current energy capacity. 20,000 megawatts will have to double within a decade in order to meet our economic targets. We are an example of the world's energy crisis. The government of Pakistan has, in a small measures, stepped up to the plate and accepted the responsibility and accountability. Having been victim to one environmental disaster after the other, earthquakes, floods, deadly pollution, climate change, drought, learning our lessons from the past, we have turned increasingly to initiatives in water and energy conservation, high efficiency irrigation systems, the powering of water system and houses by solar and wind energy, the development of seed requiring less energy inputs, prevention of environmental degradation through forest, the increasing use of cleaner ethanol, the use of seawater to produce biofuel, the supply of energy savers and hydropower generation. Individually, they are all small steps, but taken together as a national policy, they represent a long-term commitment, a fundamental reorientation to the future, our people, and to the sustainability of life on our planet. The community of nations, the interlocuting circles, our continent must come together to build a future better than any of the yesterdays we have ever known. The past is just not good enough. The past has made our planet sick. To the key, the future will be a healthy earth. This is the choice before us today. Before our generation, the quality of our children's future and the survival of our planet is in our hands. We should not shrink from the responsibility. We should welcome it. Inshallah, we shall not fail. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.